Some journeys announce themselves long before they begin. This one started with a simple conversation. What if we saw every major football stadium in Britain? What if we didn't just visit cities but understood them? What if 2 weeks could change how we see an entire country? My son took that idea and turned it into a plan. 15 days, 9 stadiums, every major ground from Wolverhampton to Wembley. He would drive every mile, navigate every turn. I would just be along for a ride. What a ride it would turn out to be. The M4 motorway cut west from Heathrow, nearly empty at this hour. Driving on the left felt strange. Then surprisingly, it became quite natural. Signs counted down Junction 10, then familiar roads and then residential streets with one house still lit, waiting for us. Midnight arrived and so had we. The door opened, hugs happened. Tea appeared as it always does in British homes. Quick catch up, then beds and sleep. Tomorrow would bring daylight and a huge new beginning. Day 1 began with family in Reading. Breakfast, a peaceful walk around the local lake where ducks paddled and families gathered. A quick visit to Reading Abbey ruins and Kew Gardens. By mid-morning, farewells were exchanged and we were back in the NG, heading to Windsor Castle, just 20 minutes away. From family to royalty, the journey was unfolding. Windsor Castle doesn't sneak up on you. It announces itself from miles away. 900 years old and still home to the royal family. The state apartments glittered with Rubens and Rembrandts hanging casually on walls. Furniture used by monarchs for generations. St. George's Chapel soared with Gothic fan-vaulted ceilings that seemed too delicate to hold their own weight, yet had done so for centuries. This was where Harry and Meghan married, where royal traditions renew itself every generations. The changing of the guard performed with British precision, red-coated guards marching in perfect unison. Bearskin hats towering, ceremony that was both theatre and deadly serious tradition. Our next stop was Oxford, and I was really excited for this one. Oxford announced itself through spires, dozens reaching skyward from colleges that had competed in architectural magnificence for 800 years. This wasn't a university with a city, but a city that is a university. Christchurch's Great Hall soared above us, the inspiration from Hogwarts but magnificent on its own term. Hammer-beam ceilings, portraits of world-changing alumni, long tables where students still dined where their grandparents had. The Radcliffe camera sat like a perfect stone bubble, round and impossible. The Bridge of Sighs connected Hertford College with Venetian grace. Students cycled past on ancient bicycles, gown flapping, late for tutorials, while bookshops lined narrow lanes displaying leather-bound volumes next to modern textbooks. Beneath the tourism, you felt it, serious thinking happening behind ancient walls, arguments that would change disciplines, discoveries that might change the world. Oxford wasn't a museum, it was alive. As the day ended, we had travelled from family to royalty to academia, Reading's everyday life to Windsor's inherited power to Oxford's learned knowledge. 3 aspects of Britain laid out in a single day. Tomorrow would bring more variety, gardens and tennis and seaside. The journey was unfolding exactly as planned. Day 2 began at Kew Gardens, World Heritage Site. 300 acres of botanical excellence. The Victorian farmhouse rose like a cathedral of glass and iron. Tropical species thriving impossibly in English weather. Humid air, thick with smell of earth and growing things. The Prince of Wales Conservatory housed 10 climate zones under one roof. Desert plants next to tropical wetlands. Each environment precisely controlled. We walked paths lined with trees from 6 continents, passed through the Japanese garden where bamboo whispered, and understood that Kew was Britain's statement. We care about this, we preserve this knowledge matters. From nature to sport, Wimbledon's All England club looked almost too ordinary for what it represents. But step inside and you will feel it. This is where tennis becomes art. Centre court's grass receives obsessive care, cut to exactly 8 millimeters, used for only 2 weeks yearly. This museum showcased legends, Federer's racket, Serena's dresses, but what stuck most was the tradition. Strawberries and cream, all white clothing, the royal box in protocol-defined order. There is a ceremony where ritual matters as much as the result. Then the landscape changed and suddenly there it was, the English Channel. The Brighton spread along its shore like a carnival that never quite packed up. Day 3 took us to Arundel Castle, commanding its hill-like Game of Thrones set piece, a Norman fortress built to intimidate and project power. Built in 1067, barely a year after William the Conqueror's victory at Hastings, it had witnessed 9 centuries from this elevated position. The Baron's Hall stretched with stone walls thick enough to withstand medieval siege engines. Window narrow for arrows but built for light. The towers offered views that explained exactly why someone built a castle here. You could see everything, control everything. The gardens added when castles became home instead of fortress. Sprawl in Victorian access with geometric flower beds and lawns like golf greens. The road south carried us through Southampton, and there it appeared, St. Mary's Stadium, home of Southampton FC, rising from the urban landscape with the unmistakable stadium architecture, all angles and glass and capacity crowds. We weren't stopping, weren't touring, but seeing it mattered. Capacity 32,000 home to Saints, a Premier League ground where legends had played and would play again. Just seeing it from the road reminded us that where the journey was heading. The stadiums waited. We will be there soon. The Salisbury Plain opened flat and endless and ancient, and there in the distance stood Stonehenge. Stones that shouldn't be standing, transported by method we still can't quite explain, arranged for purpose we can only guess. 5,000 years old, predating the pyramids, predating writing, predating everything we think of as civilization. 30-ton stones from Wales, 140 miles away, moved by people with only the most basic tools and apparently unlimited determination. We circled the site slowly, watching the stones change with every angle, sometimes massive, sometimes oddly delicate, always impossible to imagine how they were built. Temple or observatory or healing center or burial ground, or all of this or none of this. The theories competed, but the mystery remained. What struck me most was standing where prehistoric people had stood, looking at what they have built, feeling the weight of human ambition stretching back to when everything was new. The visitor center offered reconstruction and artifacts and careful theories, but honestly, Stonehenge resisted explanation. It just was ancient, powerful, mysterious, permanent. Bristol greeted us at sunset. The Clifton suspension bridge stretched across the Avon Gorge, a masterpiece of Victorian engineering designed by Brunel. Below, the old harbour told Bristol's complicated story. This was Banksy's hometown, and his influence was everywhere. The city had transformed from industrial port to creative hub, turning a difficult past into lessons for the future. Day 4 began with a border crossing. The Severn Bridge lifted us from England into Wales. Same island, different nations, different language, different identity, different pride. The bridge itself was a marvel, carrying us high above the 7 estuaries, churning waters, and the moment we crossed into Wales, even the signs changed. Welsh first, English second. This wasn't subtle. Cardiff Castle embodied Wales in stone. Roman walls from when this was Empire's edge. Norman keep from the Conqueror controlled the Welsh. Victorian Gothic revival when the third Marquis of Bute decided subtle wasn't his style. The result was architectural chaos that worked. Roman foundations supported medieval towers supporting Victorian fantasy. Inside, Victorian room exploded with gold leaf and intricate carvings, ceilings so densely decorated you could spend hours just looking up. This was imagination made stone. The city spread around it, capital of Wales, Welsh language spoken openly and proudly, a nation within a nation, asserting its identity. From Wales into England, from capital cities to countryside, the Cotswolds appeared gradually. First hints of honey-colored stone, the entire village built from it, then the landscape itself seeming to glow golden. Our first stop, Stratford-upon-Avon, where William Shakespeare was born in 1564 and changed the English literature forever. The timber-framed birthplace stood on Henley Street, remarkably preserved, rooms where the world's greatest playwright spent his childhood. The Royal Shakespeare Theatre rose beside the River Avon, still performing his works 4 centuries later. Tudor buildings lined the streets, half-timbered and leaning. Anna Hathaway's cottage waiting in the nearby village. This wasn't just literary history, it was the understanding that one person from a small town could reshape how humanity tells stories. Then deeper into the Cotswolds, Bourton-on-the-Water earned its nickname the Venice of the Cotswolds. The river Windrush ran shallow and clear through the village centre. We dipped our feet in those low, shallow water and had those wonderful hot scones. This was England as tourists dream it. Honey-coloured stone cottages with overflowing flower boxes, immaculate gardens, narrow winding streets. We sat by the water the whole afternoon, turning golden, watching ducks and tourists and locals, realizing that 4 days had just covered. Tomorrow, Birmingham, and then Wolverhampton, and then the stadiums. The football pilgrimage was about to begin. 5 days from Heathrow to Cotswold, royal palaces and ancient universities, botanical gardens and mysterious stones, Shakespeare's hometown and Welsh castles. Every stop preparing us for what came next. Tomorrow, the stadium. Tomorrow, the football. The real journey was about to begin. Please click like, share and subscribe and wait for part 2 for the journey continues. See you soon. Bye-bye.